Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode Between Two Studs. I'm Alex Stud.
And I'm Ron Stud.
And Ron, for episode 31, we have, of all the people I know, probably one of the most optimistic, positive people I've ever known. One of those people, when you first meet them, you're like suspicious of them because they're too nice, but then they're actually just sincerely a good person. Tonight we have on the show Shaina Mason. Hello, Shaina.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me.
You're most welcome.
So good to have you on.
So happy to be here. Episode 31. Also, I'm turning 31 in a couple weeks. Well, in March.
Well, congratulations.
March 30th.
March 30th.
Shaina, actually, before we get going, Shaina, I remember when we were in college, Shaina was like angry when I didn't know her birthday. She knew mine.
Yeah.
And so now it's ingrained in my mind forever. It's also in my calendar.
That's good.
So
keep it
I'll
in the
always know
calendar,
your
keep it in your
birthday.
mind. Yeah. It's a good day. It's important.
Absolutely.
So, Shaina, we always start the show off with what we call the Ember Round. I kind of
Yes.
gave you a little teaser. I said we knew each other in college, but give us a little bit more. What's the story? What's the background?
How we know each other? Yeah, so
Yes.
we went to I think we met when we were like 20? It was definitely before our 21st birthday. We met, we went to Westchester University, proud to be a Golden Ram, very proud. And we met at Sykes. We both worked at the student union. And I think at that time, you were student director, which was like head honcho, like highest position a student can have. It's very or prestigious, however you say it.
No, it wasn't.
It was. I
Thank
thought
you.
it was. And I worked event staff, but then I became a student director because I'm a hard worker and very smart. So then I became the prestigious SD also. But yeah, that's how our friendship started.
interesting.
Am I missing something?
It was interesting, Shaina, because but you were probably outside of some of these student directors like me, spent more time in our student union building than anybody.
Oh, it was my favorite place to be.
You were there, like you were pulling like 60 hours a week in that building.
Oh, definitely.
When you were managing homecoming and all of that, I mean, it was insane. You were always there.
I loved it there. Well, and then also I just hung out there. And then I got smart when I was a student director and realized I could rent out my own rooms and I had keys to those rooms. So then I would attempt to do homework there. But all my friends were there, so I could never do homework.
Classic problem.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Sykes. Oh my gosh. When I die, sprinkle my ashes in the student union. No, just kidding.
Wow.
Don't do that.
We'll put in the request.
Yeah.
Not sure
We
the
know
university
people,
will
right?
approve that one.
Sure,
They
there's
might.
probably a lot of paperwork, but they might.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were as good of a student director as it sounds like.
I mean, I really was. I had the keys.
We were like janitors, Ron. We had like,
These huge
I don't know,
keys.
20 or 30 keys. And
Yeah.
we had these rounds around the building.
Okay.
And so everyone would hear the jingles coming around the corner. And then we had these radio walkie-talkies.
I was just about to say the
Always
walkie-talkie.
malfunctions.
Yeah.
They always malfunction. But yeah, so when you saw a guy with 30 keys
Yeah.
and a walkie-talkie that was malfunctioning, you knew they meant business.
Oh, yeah. And when you went down the stairs, it was like, chirk, chirk, chirk. Because it was malfunctioning so bad. They should have upgraded those. Get us better walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
I'm just
Anyway,
picturing,
but
like,
that's where we met. Westchester. Golden Rams.
Wonderful times.
Oh, best times. Best 6 years of my life.
so tell us a little bit about yourself and what are some of your areas of interest besides Westchester and the Golden Rams?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of interest, but the interest I'm interested in, I'm very interested in those interests.
Because
Right?
you go deep.
Yeah.
You go deep in areas, and I'm like excited to talk to you about it tonight.
Oh, yeah. So I would say my number one, like, key, like, Shaina Mason. What is Shaina Mason? Astrology. I love astrology. But I like to make it very clear, I'm a girl that loves astrology. I am not an astrologist. So I could always be wrong. Like, if I say anything, it's just what I learned, what I did my own research, what I read about, things like that. I'm not doing the math. I'm no mathematician, no astrologist.
And there it is. There's our official disclaimer for the episode. Yeah. So no matter what, if Shaina provides recommendations that completely change your life and it goes horribly wrong,
not her fault.
Shaina Mason and Between Two Studs are not liable.
Yep, not liable.
Got it.
One time this isn't astrology, but this is in the woo umbrella. I know like this much about palm reading. And I was, drunk at a party, and what does one do? Oh, let me just read these random people's palms. So I was reading palms, and I found this girl, and I was like, looks like you're going to have one kid. And this girl bawling, crying. And I'm like, what did I just do? Turns out she wanted to have like 6 or 7. And I looked at her hand and I only saw 1. And then my friend Chaplin, who's one of my friends from Westchester, she's like, no more palm readings at my party. Like, no palm read. So I'm not allowed to do that.
Hey, you really destroyed the party.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, it went from a fun, like, lighthearted woohoo to like everyone was like, so should we leave?
And fast forward future years later, did she have 6 or has she had 1?
That guy dumped her, so I don't even know. It was like my friend Chaplin's friend's girlfriend, and he dumped her a couple weeks later. So I don't know what she's up to.
Well, we're going to have to follow up. We're going to have to find out what's the status of this woman today.
For the next time I'm on the podcast, I'll give you an update on her.
All right.
Yes.
Like for part 2.
So as is...
I was just
kidding.
I like
that.
That's what they say on TikTok.
So as is tradition around here, we go around and we kind of talk about the drinks that we're currently imbibing in. However, in the last episode 30, Ron and I talked about how we have a sponsor now, the official spirit of Between Two Studs, Malort. So before we get going, Shaina, I assume you don't have any Malort in your possession. So Ron and I are going to do a little toast in your honor.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you.
Cheers.
To Malort. Oh, beautiful.
Did you have Malort at the wedding?
I don't do well with like straight liquor. Like if someone was making me a nice Malort cocktail with like some fresh lime and maybe a cranberry, sure. But like straight liquor, it would be a scene to be seen.
It's really weird because it's kind of like, I feel like you can, Alex jokes about me being the only person he's ever met that sips it. And I do.
I mean, I don't just joke that. That's true.
Oh.
It's true.
I think it's still sippable. It's not sippable, but yeah, it's definitely a lot harder than your typical liqueur. So
yeah. Well, I'll have to take a sip next time. I'll take a little.
Next time you're in Chicago,
for sure.
And isn't it based in Chicago? Am I wrong? No, they're not.
Oh, it sure is.
Oh, yeah.
It sure is. And the perfect drink is Malort, shot of Malort, and a can of old style beer.
Ooh.
And so they call it a Chicago handshake.
Oh.
So most bars, especially a dive bar, you go, I want a Chicago handshake. They already know, can of old style, shot of Malort.
There's something like that in Philadelphia, too. It's a citywide.
Yes.
But it's PBR and Jameson, maybe?
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam. A whiskey. It's a whiskey. What's Malort? Yeah. It's not whiskey.
It's a botanical herbal. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That sounds like Christmas.
It's actually wormwood that's been distilled.
Oh.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what category it actually falls into.
It just says it's an unusual botanical
spirit or something. I like botanical spirit. Botanical gives me like some type of like, I don't know, like I feel like it's actually really good for you, right? Like it's botanical. It has, something for your skin or whatever. We're not making those promises. So maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
we are.
Shaina,
what are you drinking right now?
Oh, so currently right now I am just drinking a little can of Diet Pepsi and a big thing of water. But like if I was going to drink, actually my drink of choice was, I discovered it because of actually a mutual friend. You're going to know this name, Alex. Tori Getz. When I went down and visited him, he bought me whatever, it's called Ava Grace wine, and it is my favorite wine, and I buy it all the time. It's like $9. It's like the best, and I love it.
I've never heard of. What kind of wine is it?
Well, I prefer a Sauvignon Blanc, but they do like a Rosé, Pinot Grigio, everything.
And all the major chains carry it.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
gotten it at the Pennsylvania liquor store carries it, and that's where you buy alcohol here. So I don't know.
Yeah,
the major chains.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it.
It's Monopoly.
Well, shout out to Tori if you're listening.
Yes.
Hey, Tori.
Tori, he knows everything. Love him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have him on the show at some point.
Oh.
Ron, what are you working on?
So I'm having a seltzer water. This is a bubbly, circa 2021. Whoa. So it's.
I love that.
Yeah. What about you, Alex?
Right? I've seen those commercials.
Yeah, the Buble. This is the strawberry berry one. So.
Ooh, yum.
It's good.
I guess I'm the only one drinking alcohol tonight. Outside of that shot of Malort, I'm having some scotch. I'm having Wolfburn Aurora. I'm having the Flaviar. These are like little samplers of different drinks from all around the world, different spirits.
That's awesome.
It's pretty good. Yeah, that way you don't have to commit to a whole bottle, right?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So Shaina, Ron, why don't you take this one? This is always the people look forward to this question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't mess up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm nervous.
So Shaina, here's the thing with this question. So we've asked it to, I think, every single guest we've had on the show, and I don't think we've ever heard a bad response. Every single response is really unique to every guest that we have.
Now I'm nervous.
Till tonight.
Yes, tonight the bad response.
Till tonight. But I think that's part of the nature of art. But here's a question for you.
Okay.
Pick a piece of art that you like that represents you. And it could be song, movie, book, painting. It could be even a marathon in one case. And tell us what that is.
I love that. Okay, so off the bat, you asked me a story, and I'm going to follow up your story with you asked me a question, I'm going to follow up your question with a story that when I visited Alex in Chicago, I went to the Art Museum of Chicago, and my boyfriend, who is a lovely little gem of a person, but he's also like a little nerdy and like a little bit more intellectual than I am, which is fine. We balance each other out. But he goes, okay, he's like looking at the brochure. He's like, all right, what kind of art do you like? Like trying to like map out our thing. And I full ass look at this man go, I like animals doing human things. And he just looks at me and he's like, what? And then he's like, we'll just go to the Van Goghs.
So classical or contemporary? And
probably more like contemporary. But so that's my style of art is animals doing human things. But if I had to pick one piece of art that would maybe totally, perfectly represent me, I don't think that Alex is going to be surprised by the song I'm about to say, and it's Popular from Wicked. So,
oh my gosh,
I think that's what actually really represents me.
We're going to talk about Wicked in a little bit. So this serves a little bit of a teaser for that.
Love it.
And so when we get into that, we'll talk a little bit more why it speaks to you so much. Although I do want to comment before we move on. I think it's very interesting how you are, even though it wasn't your official answer, you're the second person on the show to bring up the Chicago Art Museum.
No way.
I don't even remember, Ron, who was the guest that mentioned that their favorite art piece was it's famous from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's the one with like lots of little...
Oh, with the pointillism.
Yeah.
The pointillism. Right here, Ron, where there's this pause, insert awkwardly, person A.
Here's who it is.
Person is.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to do that if we can find it.
So you're the second person.
Wow. Well, I mean, that art museum is kind of prolific. There's a lot. Did I use that word correctly? There's a lot going on in there.
It's expansive.
Love it.
Yeah,
prolific,
expansive. That's a better word. I will say, though, as someone that's been to the Art Museum in Chicago and the Art Museum in Philly, and I am not really an art museum person, but I've been to both because, again, my boyfriend is, Philadelphia is a little bit better.
Ooh.
And
Hey, let's not get into controversial subjects right now, okay?
It's a little bit more immersive. Like, there was one point I walked in, and I was like, wait a second, are we outside? And Mike looked at me, he's like, oh my God, no, we're not. And then a 6-year-old girl was like, are we outside? And I was like, she's confused too. But we were just in this immersive art experience in Philadelphia.
And wasn't the Philadelphia Art Museum, that was built as part of the World's Fair, right?
Oh, I mean,
I want to say that was one of the buildings that was constructed for the World's Fair. So
wasn't that in Chicago?
No,
There's been multiple in Chicago.
Oh.
But I'm sure there was one in Philly.
But there was one there. So this might be another thing when I edit. I'll be like, yes, Ron, you were right. Or, no, Ron, you were wrong.
So, Shaina, we're at the last question of the Ember Round.
I like the Ember Round, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we were going back and forth on this one for a while. The name of the Ember Round. We called it the Ember Round.
I don't really get why it's Ember, though, but...
Well, it's sort of a slow burn, right? It's a little
Ember
we're warming
like
up,
that.
right?
I don't know. And it wasn't quite like
a shortening of remember, the Ember Round, like remember the round. Ember.
No.
And it's not
that would have been a little. It's sky comma.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, and I think we were thinking lightning round, but like a lot of the questions, they lend themselves to talking. So you're not going to be like, no, yes, this, done. It just doesn't work well. So
yeah, I like Ember. That's clever. Slow burn. I like it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So name ideally a positive thing because we're an upbeat type of show. Name one way that COVID has maybe accidentally, not intentionally, had a positive impact in your life, right? Like, for example, Ron and I started this podcast as a direct result of COVID. So is there maybe something that maybe you've picked up a hobby or an interest that indirectly resulted because of COVID?
So no hobbies, no interests. I had the interests I had before COVID. Maybe they just got more grand. But I will say, this is going to sound like a negative, but I swear it's a positive. Hang in there with me. COVID has really helped me like shrink in my circle a little bit. Like, I am one of those people. My boss always makes fun of me because one day we were talking about like the best friends that we have, and I was like counting. I was like, I have about 75 best friends, and she was like, wait a second, like what? But like COVID has made me realize.
Yeah, you got to cap it at 74 best friends.
Yeah, it's weird to have 75, like 72 at the most. But like COVID really has made me realize like there's a lot of people in my life that I was putting into the friendship. Like I was making an effort in that friendship. I was going 90, they were going 10. So I just stopped. And then our friendships just stopped. And honestly, I never realized how many toxic, I mean, I don't really know, I'm not a therapist, but like toxic friendships I had. And then COVID came along and I was like, wow. And this is like unpopular opinion, and COVID has been awful for so many people, and there's a million tragedies that happen every single day. I've never been happier. I'm just kidding. But like more at peace and well-being in my own brain.
Well, and you and I've talked about this before in that it's not that all relationships are toxic. However, when you are putting so much into a relationship, it can be exhausting.
Yeah.
Right?
And getting nothing.
To really right. And there's sort of that analogy of, I remember in college, I think from Barrett, an individual from Sykes, talk about these like buckets, right? You have a metaphorical bucket.
Yeah.
The bucket, and you're filling up your water and you're putting it in other people's buckets, and they can take from their bucket and fill up with water. And it's a weird analogy, but the whole idea is it can be exhausting after a while if you're giving everything out and you're not getting it in return.
Yeah. Speaking of that,
sometimes
one of the best friendship moments I've ever had in my life was because of Alex Studd. And I was like going through a bad time in my life. Like I was not being a good friend to anybody. My grandmother had recently died. I was like doing whatever. And he called me and he was like, do you want to be my friend? Do you want to be my friend? You got to make a better effort. I want to be friends with you forever. You got to do more. And that was like a day I was like, oh shit. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Am I allowed to curse?
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
Well, you're
good.
good.
Go, oh shit, oh fuck. And then I was like, oh wait, not fuck. And then went back to shit. And I was like, wait, they're all curse words.
It's all good. Once you hit 50, though, you get the disclaimer. It's how
good.
We put a disclaimer at the front that says, just so you know, you're probably going to be offended if you don't like certain language.
Yeah, okay.
Other than that,
good. I don't
put that in mind, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to hit the threshold.
All right.
You're good. I appreciate that story, although it makes me seem like a hard ass.
I don't think it makes you seem like a hard ass for friendship. It's not like you were like, order me 12 pizzas or whatever. No.
Maybe.
put in some effort, man. Like,
but like, I could also be like, hearing this story, I don't know the full details, but did Alex know about your grandmother ahead of time, or was that just purely...
Yeah.
So he knew that, and then he forced that on you to say, you better be a friend.
What a jerk. Jerk.
no.
Like, here you are grieving, and you're like, trying to deal with... And Alex is yelling at you, you better be my friend, or so help
Oh
me.
my God. Yeah, that's exactly how it went. No.
All right, I can see that.
No, I honestly have never had anybody in my life care so much about our friendship that he would pick up the phone, call me, and be like, you got to make more of an effort or this is not going to work. Like, it was one of those, like, pivotal moments where I was like, I'm stuck with this man forever, I think. Cool, I'm in. Like,
You're very kind. You're very kind, and I'm glad you didn't just go, well, screw this guy, and then I never heard from you.
yeah, no.
That's part of. I think that's part of the reason why people don't throw that out there, right? Because it's like, oh, well, if I throw out the metaphorical ultimatum, they might actually call me on that, and now all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah,
you're out.
yeah.
But-
Nope.
Anyway, Shaina, value our friendship tremendously. With that,
Yeah.
you passed the Ember round.
Whew.
Congratulations.
That was hot for a while. I was worried.
I know. Ron, you got to get a shorter version of that clip. That one goes on way too long.
I liked it.
I mean, that one's
Yeah.
14 seconds. It's not that long.
14.
I just need to, like, segue it in, just
Yeah.
it'll work.
All right. Hey, we're getting into the meat and the potatoes of the show.
Good
That's
stuff.
not what it's actually called, Shaina. But let's get into a little bit more, get to know you a little bit better, right?
Perfect.
So I know you have become a huge Philly person.
Oh,
right? You are
love
like
it.
Team Philadelphia, fly, Eagles, fly. Right.
Go Birds. But go Bills.
Right. So
How about that
Yeah,
game this
yeah.
weekend? I watched it.
I know.
It
I
was
know.
awesome.
Okay, so
anyway, off topic.
So I know not only do you live in Philly for the last couple of years, you also work there.
Mm-hmm.
What makes that city so special to you?
It's just home. Like, that's what's so special to me. It's literally just like home, even though I did not grow up in Philadelphia. I grew up outside of Philly. But I don't know. I think I have such a wide network here. I have a lot of friends here and like friends of friends and all of the buildings. Like, I always make jokes that Philadelphia is the Paris of America. But then my friend who's from Korea, but I met her in Texas, so she's lived in Korea and Texas, literally kept saying, this place reminds me of Paris. And I was like, I know. Like, yeah. Like, sometimes I walk through like Rittenhouse Park, which used to be the park like right outside my house. Now I live a little bit more south. But they would like have all their twinkle lights up and there'd be like a light snowfall. And I'd be like, am I in a Hallmark movie? Like, maybe. I might be. It's just lovely. I just love everything about it. Scenic, people, amazing.
So, Shaina, there used to be a show by the late, great Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, I
And the
thought
show
you were
was
going to say
called-
Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I was like, where are we
No.
going with this?
No, and the show was called The Layover.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of the show was Anthony Bourdain, and it has like 36 hours in a city.
All right.
Right? That's it. He's got a stretch between two flights. Very quickly, if you had to tell somebody, hey, I'm going to be in Chicago, I'm going to be in Philadelphia. Sorry, I'm going to be in Philadelphia for 1 day. What do you got to hit? What do you got to do?
Okay, so it's tough with Philly because a lot of things are seasonal. Like, if you're here in like around Christmas time, there's all the pop-up Christmas markets, all the pop-up Christmas bars, things like that. But then if you come here like in the springtime, I mean, similarly, there's like the spring markets and the spring pop-up bars and stuff like that. So it does depend on the type of year. I would say whatever the pop-ups are, though, go to the pop-ups. Like, I just went to, like, a Christmas pop-up, obviously, a couple weeks ago. I mean, the decorations, like, you literally felt like you were in the North Pole. There used to be a pop-up right by my house where I used to live. Again, now I live more south. I just moved a couple weeks ago, so I'm, like, talking like I live in one place. I still have the lease there, so I technically own two houses. Rent two homes. But there's, like, this awesome pop-up on South Street that was, like, a beer garden, and they had, like, it was like a bull, but it was like a shark, like a bull shark. You know, like you ride the bull, but it was a shark. But then beyond the pop-ups and like drinking in Philadelphia, which is obviously always a hit, I would say you're going to catch me. I'm kind of a history nerd. I love the history of Philadelphia. Like, you go to Old City and you're walking on the cobblestone and you're like, could my foot have been in the same place where Ben Franklin's foot was? Probably. Yeah.
And his ladies of the evening.
All his ladies. Oh my God, I would have been one of his ladies, please. With or without the syphilis that killed him. I don't care. He was a genius and a feminist and wonderful. Love him.
We heard it there. We heard it there.
But here's a big question for you, Shaina. Is Ben Franklin, is he more Bostonite or is he Philadelphia guy?
So
you're asking someone who's with biased response.
I'm just
go
saying,
ahead.
I want to hear.
What I was about to say is I probably think if you ask Ben Franklin himself, if we could go back in time on this podcast, I think he would say Philadelphia because he was born in Boston, but he moved there quite young. And then like his actual pivotal years of like discovery of, you know, he made a million inventions, but then also like the Constitution and building up America. That was all here. Like first hospital here, library here, all Ben Franklin. Not
so
Boston.
I as someone who lived in Boston, I agree with you. But the key thing to explain to the audience is when he was born, Boston was the largest city in the colony and all the colonies. So it was already the most developed. Actually, the primary reason he left Boston for Philadelphia was sort of an opportunity for him to get away from his family, kind of spread his own wings, kind of do his own thing. And there was much more opportunity in Philadelphia because Philadelphia was a lot less developed at the time.
Yeah.
So I think it was a matter of circumstance that Philadelphia was in the perfect position where it needed someone like Ben Franklin who wouldn't have benefited Boston would not have benefited as much from Ben Franklin, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. So he's a Philadelphian.
But I'll give you that he's a Philadelphian.
Him and
All right,
Rocky.
hey, Shaina, there's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two most important people from Philadelphia's history. Yeah. The last question about Greater Philadelphia, I do want to talk about because I think it's fascinating. And, you know, Ron and I are not originally from the Philadelphia area. We lived there for a period of time, and then we both have left. But one thing I've never experienced anywhere else in the country is how much people identify with their county.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Right. It's like, no, I'm from Bucks. No, I'm from Berks. No, I'm from Chester. Yeah. I'm from Delco. Can you quickly explain, because I would love your take on like what is the general stereotype of each one of those counties of the type of person?
Oh, I don't know. So I would say like maybe like Bucks County, Berks County, Monco County, Chester County would be like upper class, like, you know, more like persnickety maybe people. Chester County's kind of split between where it is. And then Delco's more like, you know, a little bit like more like maybe like rougher around the edges, maybe smoke some cigarettes or like things like that. I don't know. But
Mayor of Easttown was set in Delco.
Yes. So, and yeah. Delco really has those like strong, like it's not even like a Philly accent, it's like a Delco accent, like very strong, like what have you seen, like what are they, like the SNL, like my daughter's the murder, my daughter's, like nobody talks like that, like, well, in Delco.
Murder,
like no, home, like no. I mean, I will every once in a while be like water. That's like water, but I think that's my only So those are kind of like the overarching stereotypes, and I think there's like such like county, almost like pride, right? Like county pride or whatever. But it's because people don't want to say. I know at least me before I lived in Philadelphia, I did not want to say I was a Philadelphian because I didn't live in Philadelphia. So then people like if you say like, oh, I'm from, and actually, I've heard Alex go on this rant before, but if you say, like, oh, I'm from Philly, they're like, oh, where? 15th and Market? That's where I used to grow up, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, well, actually, Newtown? And they're like, that's not Philly. So I think that's also why, like, the surrounding areas. But then, I don't know, because it's still county specific if you go, like, deep into PA.
Like, I guess I was shocked having gone to school and met you in Westchester, I just assumed if you're from Westchester, you would say, I'm from Westchester. Or if you're from Yardley, Pennsylvania, you'll just say I'm from Yardley. But no, it's very much like, no, I'm from Bucks County.
Yeah, that's what I say.
I remember when I first moved, when I first started school, everyone introduced themselves by their county.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know counties in Pennsylvania. I'm from Delaware or New York. You know
but
what I mean?
does Delaware do? Well, I guess Delaware is really small, so you could just do cities.
You just say it based on the city. I grew up there. I went to high school in Middletown.
Well, didn't you notice, like, Jersey people, they don't say, like, oh, I'm from Cherry Hill. They would say, oh, I'm from Central Jersey, or, oh, I'm from South Jersey.
That's a big, I'm North Jersey.
Yeah.
But, like, that gets tricky because where does the line end?
That's arbitrary.
You ask 10 million people from New Jersey, they all have 10 million different answers on when does North Jersey end.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not from Jersey.
Speaking of North Jersey, which is close to Ron, New York City, let's talk about Broadway. Because I know you are wicked excited to talk about Broadway.
I see what he did there.
Seriously.
Wicked excited.
Seriously, all kidding aside, why do you love musicals so much?
It's just how I want life to be. Like, I would just prefer if we were, like, talking and then all of a sudden we're, like, singing. Like, just boom. It's, like, how I've always wanted life to be, like, even as a child. And it's actually how I live my life, but not everybody gets in my dance number with me.
That is not an exaggeration.
Oh, no.
Shaina will, all of a sudden, we'll be walking down the street in Philadelphia, and all of a sudden she's, like, getting ready to, like,
you're a Jet all the way. And everyone's like, you're a Jets fan? Yeah. No, fly Eagles fly.
Go Birds, go Birds, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Yeah, but that is really why I love them. And they're just so engaging, and, like, the costumes and, like, everything. I love a musical. Don't take me to a play.
Ron was quite a musical guy.
Wow.
In high school and in college.
Wow. What were you in?
Ron was,
So I did Big Jewel and Guys and Dolls. So that was fun. I did Admiral von Schreiber and Sound of Music.
Ooh.
Honestly, I didn't really do any singing parts, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Although, like, the one director did say, here's the thing, you can do a singing part, or you can do the non-singing part. I'm like, non-singing, thank you.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But I appreciated the fact that they were like, nah, no option for you, buddy. So that was nice. But
that's beautiful.
Ron, I remember seeing him when he played the judge in The Crucible. And this was in college.
Ooh.
And The Crucible, obviously a very serious play. Very serious, right? Horrible, we're talking about the Salem witch trials. And Ron was like fire and brimstone, like, compels you. And it was amazing because, like, Ron did everything right, but I think he just took it to that nth degree that, like, and no one else in the cast took it up to that nth degree. So Ron just really stood apart as, like, this guy is terrifying.
You stole the show.
He's scary.
Yeah, that's
afterwards,
amazing.
Like, for a college theatrical production, like, I'd come out and, normally the cast comes out at the end and people, like, parted like the Red Sea around me. I got to feel a little bit like what the Joffrey actor from Game of Thrones felt like.
Yeah.
Where it was like, everyone's just like, ooh, he's scary. And I'm like... So it's kind of nice to this day, like, my wife having seen that, when my daughter's like, oh, Daddy's angry. My wife's like, no, that's not angry. I've seen him real angry.
In The Crucible.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's so funny.
So we hinted at it earlier, Shaina. Is Wicked still your all-time favorite musical?
You know what? I think it is. And I actually just saw it a couple weeks ago. I saw it in December again for, like, the, I guess, maybe third time I've seen it now. But yeah, I've seen it twice in America and once in London. And it's just really good. I mean, there are a lot of close seconds. But I identify with it so much, and I love the, like, everybody has a story to tell, and like everybody is the villain or the hero in whatever story. So I love the like showing another perspective. I actually watched Corilla last night, which is not a musical, but it's that perspective taking. Loved it. I'm waiting for the Ursula one. Let's give Ursula her day. She deserves it. What's her backstory? Ariel was a jerk. Hot take. We went off topic here, but I did just see The Little Mermaid, the musical, a couple weeks ago too, so that's been fresh on my mind.
So
can you?
So when it comes to musicals, I'm curious, what's your take on what makes a musical truly shine? Is it the music? Is it the acting? Is it the story? Or is it kind of the whole way that it's put together, that story, if you know what I mean, where there might be things on the stage, the way that the story is designed that really presents it in a different perspective. What are your thoughts on that, just out of curiosity?
I think it's the music plus the story. The music really needs to hold, almost like I almost like an operetta almost. Like the music and the story need to really tie together. And then I like when you hear like the reoccurring themes in this. I don't even have the vernacular to know what these are because I'm not a music major or anything like that. But like when you hear like the reoccurring themes, like it like starts it and then the last song like kind of ends it the same way with like the same like tune and things like that. I really like when it like ties back together. But I would say the music plus the story. If the music's bad, the musical's bad. If the story's bad, the musical's bad. Mm-hmm. But so now seeing The Little Mermaid on I saw it at the Walnut Tree Theater, so not on Broadway, but on stage. It was so, I guess like the word would be maybe like dynamic. I don't know. They really incorporated technology and like things in like in a different way. Like the eels came out and they all had like light up outfits on. Flounder came out on one of those like hoverboard things. Like it was just very much like how they used, it wasn't just like, you know, Oklahoma where they're like dancing and like whatever. Like it was very like engaging. So it's actually made me like step up a little bit. I'm like, I have a little bit of higher expectations here, musicals.
So Shaina, we're going to go to break, but before we do, last question.
Yes.
You are given front row tickets. Any Broadway musical show right now in New York City. You got to go. Don't worry about COVID for a moment. This is a magical scenario. What musical are you choosing?
Ooh, well, something I haven't seen. And maybe Hamilton. I haven't seen Hamilton. I've watched the movie, but I've never seen the thing. Like the play itself.
Yeah. So I saw the traveling show in Atlanta, and that was awesome. Really happy I got a chance to see that. Because it was similarly like, we had talked about it a little bit on our first episode of the season where the music is just so compressed where you've got so much story going on.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say if you get a chance to, I would definitely suggest seeing it. It was really good.
I've seen it on Disney Plus, so I've like seen it, right? But there's such a difference between like watching the movie and then like watching it in the theater, right? Like there's just and then there are things like Les Mis. I will never watch that on a theater again. It's just a bunch of trash on the stage and then them running in and out. Like no, the movie's better. But it's like
wow,
hot take, right? Hot take.
Wow.
I was gonna say that's the most controversial thing you've said.
Yeah, I know. People are there's gonna be backlash. Like
I can see people just unsubscribing from our podcast. They're like, no. Between Two Studs had credibility until she spoke bad of Les Mis.
I will say the first time I saw it, it wasn't a professional production, and I was so confused. It was just like trash on stage, and then them running in and out, and I'm like, whoa, on my own? Like, what's going on here? I don't get it. And then I watched the movie, and I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. There's not all this trash on the stage.
Love it. Hey, with that, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we talked about astrology earlier. I know you're into spiritual crystals. This stuff, I don't know anything about. I think it's really interesting that you're interested in it. Yeah. So I want to talk about it.
Amazing.
We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Ron here. And Alex and I wanted to take a moment first to thank you for being a listener to our podcast. Secondly, I've got a challenge for you. This week, if you could, find somebody who maybe isn't familiar with the show and turn them onto it. We'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And we're back with Between Two Studs. Shaina Mason, one of the main reasons I wanted you on the show, other than just the fact that you're a delight, is I remember when you came out and visited me in Chicago, and you were just like giving me an entire readout. And it was like an encyclopedic knowledge. Like you just knew this off the top of your head.
Yeah.
As it relates to astrology. And I guess what I'd like to understand, what's your origin of interest? What got you excited about this? Because you clearly have spent a lot of time reading about this. And for someone who doesn't really know the space, what kind of information could you gather based on someone's date of birth, maybe the time of their birth, and even the location of their birth?
Yeah, so you need all that all that information. But I've always been into sun sign astrology, they would call it. Like, oh, I'm an Aries, like you're a Gemini. Like that's where the sun was when you were born, which is like pretty prominent energy for a lot of people. So that's always been an interest of mine. I've always loved it. And then I lived with, it was like such a random living situation. I lived with like this couple, but they were like renting out a room, and then like right after I moved out they ended up breaking up, so it worked out really well. But anyway, they were both very into astrology, so then from there I just like casually we'd start having conversations, and then all of a sudden I'm like digging into like random people's charts and like running bonds on like me, and like yesterday I ran the bond for me and Martin Luther King Jr., and him and I would make a good relationship, but that's besides the point. Like I just was like doing it for fun. But yeah.
So you just plugged in his date of birth, his time of birth, and where he was born, which was in Atlanta?
So I actually have an app that you can run bonds on literally any famous person, or you can also run the bonds on like, you know, like I'll do it for my boyfriend Mike. I'll like run our bond and just kind of see what his timing is, seeing kind of like what's going on, and like if I need to be nice to him kind of thing. I'm just kidding. I'm always nice to him.
So what's your bond with Benjamin Franklin?
Oh, you know what? I've never run my bond with Benjamin Franklin. I should. I bet it'd be good. We'll talk about that on our next episode.
I was going to say, I bet you that'd be a strong bond.
I think we would have a really strong bond. I actually don't even know Benjamin Franklin's birthday. I'm not super I don't feel confident that we're gonna get like his birth time and things like that. I don't think record keeping in the 1700s is that great, but I feel like the day and location should be easy enough, right? We know it's Boston, and I don't know when he was born, but he's an innovator. I feel like he's an Aquarius. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah.
So you always had this interest. It really got revved up with your former roommates. And would you say it's a pretty big part of your life in that your friends and the way you interact with them, you am I wrong in saying that you think about their profile in some of the ways you interact with them? Like you know I'm a Gemini. Right? Mm-hmm. Like do you treat me a little differently because I'm a Gemini?
No, but I would like, well, no, I don't think I treat anybody differently because of astrology or anything like that. So maybe if we were having some type of conflict, I would take a look at your chart. I would be like, oh, okay, his Mars isn't, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what your Mars placement says, and it's in XYZ house. So, I don't want to get into this conflict because it will explode. Or what I also like to do is look at like the astrological weather. Like I'm sure you guys have heard that Mercury's gone into retrograde. I feel like everyone's talking about it. Have you heard? Or is that just in my vacuum that I live in?
I don't know. Sounds good.
I wasn't aware, but...
So Mercury just went into retrograde. Venus has been in retrograde in Capricorn. So Venus is going to come out of retrograde, but Mercury just went into retrograde. So like right now, the next like couple weeks, I know it's a bad time to like make big decisions. Like anytime Venus is in retrograde, it's kind of like a bad time to like get engaged, right? So like I wouldn't want to get engaged during a retrograde. A lot of big companies actually hire astrologists, and again, not an astrologist, just a girl who likes astrology, but astrologists who look at the astrological weather and be like, okay, should we launch this product now? Should we merge companies now? And like, you always hear about Mercury being in retrograde because Mercury rules technology and communication, which is like the overarchers of our life and our systems that we have is technologies and communication. So people are always like, Mercury in retrograde, Mercury in retrograde. Anytime Instagram goes down, Mercury's in retrograde. When Facebook and Instagram totally went down, Mercury was in retrograde. Like, but anyway, but I do like to look at the astrological weather to help make decisions. But I would never look at somebody's chart and be like, I don't want to be friends with this person, because energy manifests differently. And then there's also like an evolved Gemini and an uninvolved Gemini are two totally different people.
Mm-hmm. But it's fair to say, I don't want to take you out of context, but is it fair to say that if there is a conflict with someone, you would look up their profile to say maybe the reason for this conflict is something's happening based on their background?
Yeah, I would. Or like, I'd look up and be like, why do we keep, I've done this literally for my boyfriend, Mike. I'm like, why sometimes, like when I say things, like he doesn't get it. Like sometimes I feel like we're operating on different wavelengths. And our Venuses, our planets of love, are very, very different. Like mine's in Taurus, which is an earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign. So it wants stability. Taurus wants like money, basically. So like I want like stability. I want financial success. I want like things like that. Also like gifts. Like my love language would be like prezzies, you know. And then his is like very different, and it's an Aquarius. Where Aquarius is like, it's also a fixed sign, but it's a fixed air sign. So they're not big. It's not like a communication sign. It's not like, let's talk about our feelings. It's not like, you know, it's more kind of like aloof. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to worry about the collective and not just us, you know? So sometimes that energy doesn't always mash. So then I have to be like, okay, why is it like this? Okay, this all makes sense. All right, now let me kind of shift the way I'm thinking and talk in language that will make sense to him.
So, can you talk about, so Ron's a Virgo. For anyone who
Virgo
else
sign.
is a Virgo. Right. Can you explain more or less at a super high level, what does that mean? What could I, without knowing anything more about this man who also is my brother, what could I gauge from the fact that he's a...
So when I think about, you're always like, how do you know so much about astrology? It's because I categorize things. So Virgo is an earth sign. So starting there, Virgo would be like routines, like activities, like, so earth signs are kind of known for like hard work. It's just like different ways they do that hard work. So Virgo is service to others, right? So where a Taurus would care about money and like their stuff and like things that they have in their house. A Virgo would care about like, oh, have I made sure that I like called my brother and, you know, made sure he had dinner or something. I don't know. It's so dramatic. I'm sure you don't call and make sure you have dinner, but like acts of service more so. So nope. It's an earth sign. It's also a mutable earth sign. So mutable meaning mutable signs end the season. So there's cardinal, there's fixed, and then there's mutable. So cardinal is who starts the season. So cardinal energy is like, boom, let's get things moving. Let's get things going. Fixed energy is once the season's in bloom. It's like, let's all sit here and look pretty, right? And then mutable energy is like, all right, let's change this out. We got to get into the next season. So you're a mutable earth sign. And then again, like kind of like think about earth. Earth is like a solid. So like mutable earth, sometimes that's like a kind of a weird, like, oh, changing, mutable earth, but like Virgo would like change, but Virgo likes routine. So it's kind of like, how does that express itself? Like I need change to like keep going and like keep my like wherewithal, but I want a routine. So Virgo's kind of like an interesting sign. There's a couple signs that I don't think always like line up. And if you have that, I'm like, ooh, that could be a little bit more of a challenging. And then also having a Virgo sun, right? Like the sun, think of literally like the sun. It's a luminary. It's like, boom, in a almost like act of service sign, right? So what do you get maybe a lot of like credit for, a lot of attention for would be like potentially being like a kind person who does things for others. Virgos also.
Well, I know I've heard I've heard too that so my birthday's August 28th, and I've heard that because of where it is, sometimes it's like, oh, you have some Leo traits too. Or is that what are your thoughts on that? Is that there's a hard cutoff, or is it it kind of varies?
Well, the 28th would be around the 20th when they would change over, and they call them cuspers, and cuspers tend to either be really strong one way or really strong the other way. But what we're talking about here, I just want to emphasize, this is just sun sign astrology, which is just one tiny little planet or luminary in your whole chart of all of the planets, there's North Node, South Node, there's a Cryon, which is a planetoid. It's not a full planet, it's a planetoid, which they're actually, I just learned today that they think that Cryon, which is a planetoid, rules Virgo, where actually in old astrology, before we had better telescopes, Mercury. So the same as Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so is Virgo. It's just one is outwardly speaking, the other's inwardly thinking.
I think one of the things that really intrigued me that I didn't know about until more recent years in talking to you is the location element. And it's not even just the location of where you were born, but also where you currently live. I remember Shaina had a stint where she lived in Texas. And she was talking to me about what that means based on everything that she's talked about so far and her moving to a different part of the world, what that means. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So this, I'm definitely still learning about this. So this, I can't speak of so freely, and I could be wrong and stuff, but it's called Astro Cartography. So basically what it does is it maps out in the world, all of these different lines. So there's your Venus ascendant line, your sun line, your Pluto line, and they all mean different things, and living near them or away from them can mean different things for your life. So for instance, Texas for me, and this was before I was super duper into astrology. That was just back when I liked sun sign astrology. Again, it's what I call it, sun sign astrology. But Texas has no lines. There's nothing. If you looked at my Astro Cartography map, Texas blank. There's nothing there. And I kind of felt that way. There was literally nothing for me in Texas. I woke up every day just on to the next one, I guess. Let's keep going. But in the greater Pennsylvania area, I live west of my sun sign, which is good for just sun line, which is good for just embracing yourself. I live on my, no, I don't live on, but I live west of my Venus ascendant line, which means in this area, I think it's beautiful. I look around, I'm like, oh, look at all this beauty. But then in turn, people actually think I'm more beautiful. So I'm like, gotta live where people think I look pretty. And then there's something, another line, and I can't remember with career here. But I would have better career options if I moved to the West Coast.
Now that's super interesting. So let me ask you this. Hannah and I, we've bounced around. And her PhD is going to finish up another 2 to 3 years. And at that point, I have no idea where we're going to live. We might stay in Chicago. We might leave. If you were us, would you look at...
Yeah.
You would look at this information and say, you know what? Definitely. Utah might not be the place, Alex. Based on this, I think you'd be better off either here or here.
Yeah, because if you lived on certain, if you lived on a Saturn line or something like that, that would just be Saturn's karmic and hard work. So it would just be every day you're just hitting the wall, hitting the wall, hitting the wall. Or if you lived near nothing, then it would just be again, kind of there's nothing going on. You don't feel great. You don't feel bad. It's just kind of neutral, which I don't ever want to feel neutral. There's a lot. And then I also think if you do end up having kids, you got to look at when you're moving, you got to look at your kids' charts too.
See, I find this interesting. And you and I have talked about this. I don't know if I necessarily believe this, but I do believe that there are things in the world that are not explainable.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I hear a lot from people is they move somewhere, and I go, what brought you there? And in some cases they go, I was just drawn there.
Yeah.
I went on vacation, and I just felt something. And there might be some element to that.
Yeah, I mean, I really think there is. And I also, I won't go as far to say that I will use it for travel, but if I'm traveling somewhere for a long, like for instance, like a honeymoon or something like that, I would definitely be like, all right, let's pick based on like these lines. Like I don't want to be somewhere where there's going to be like turmoil.
So if there was a toss up, like let's just say honeymoon, you got St. Lucia, you got Aruba. I'm just picking 2 random tropical places. Yeah. Same price, same, no major, one's better than the other. You might look at this and say that'll make the deciding factor.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I would probably look at it before the prices. I feel like let's spit that first.
So are there any specific like sites or services that you use, or is this all just kind of committed to books that you know the right people and you have to go to the right people?
I use websites because it's all math. So I don't do the math. I let the algorithm do the math for me. Like I'm not out here like with my little compass like charting things. Like no. Cuz that's like what you would have to do. Like that's what like way back when the kings of friggin' England and stuff, that's what they would find an astrologist, and that astrologist would be like mapping things out with a pen and paper. Not even a feather. And I don't know, sheepskin. I don't know. Whatever they used as paper. I don't know what they used.
Wow. Well, so Shaina, slight change of topics, but still fascinating. You brought up earlier how like there was that like big moment in your life when I called you up and yelled at you, more or less. There was a big moment that I'll always remember where I was in your apartment, and I don't know, I was just like, I guess I'm a bad guest. I was just like picking things up and like playing with it and looking around. I think you were like doing something, and I picked up a crystal, and you were like, Alex. I said, what? And you go, Alex, it's okay. You're my friend, but you shouldn't touch another person's crystals. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And I felt really bad. I didn't know. I'm like, well, do we have to do something? Anyway, can you talk about spiritual crystals? Like at a really high level, what are they? What's the purpose? What do they do? How do you interact with it? Like all that.
Yeah. Again, like, so I would say there's like 3 parts of spirituality, and I'm going to use the term girl as in like whatever, but girl can be non-binary, whatever. It's just like, I'm just saying the word girl. But there's astrology girls, there's crystal girls, and there's yogi girls. Right? So I'm more of an astrology girl when it comes to spirituality, which is more like meta, cerebral. I want to think and like I want to talk and I want to like, you know, like psychology aspects of it. There's like the crystal girls who I would say are more into like aesthetic spirituality, right? Not aesthetic in a bad way, not like, oh, that looks nice, but like nice things bring nice vibes. And then there's like the yogi girls who are like meditation, body, spirituality, right? So astrology is my number 1, crystal's my number 2, and then meditation and yoga are my number 3. But so crystals, right? So just all that saying that I'm not like deep into crystals the way I'm deep into astrology. But just as anything, it emits energy, right? Like I emit energy, you emit energy. We're all taken in, taken out, taken from source, like whatever. And crystals can help like balance energy. Also, certain crystals can have like different properties to them. So like obsidian would like block like dark energy, right? Where clear quartz will like amplify energy or focus or things like that. Rose quartz is for like opening up your heart and like love and things like that. So I will say, I don't know if every single crystal is like, this is good for that, that's good for that, right? I don't know if that's not like proven to me, but I definitely do feel like energy's better when I have crystals in like the corners and on the windowsills and things of that nature.
Well,
also, they're so
I was going to ask for you to comment on that because how do you actually, I mean, do people hold on to their crystals and meditate with them? I felt like for you had them like in corners of your rooms. Yeah. So can you talk about like what the difference is and how different people actually physically use the crystals?
Yeah. Some people wear them. Like some people, I have a lot of friends that you'll see them with like rose quartz on or like obsidian on or something like that. I like them more in like homes. So I use a lot of quartz. I use a lot of amethyst. And obsidian is another one. Well, obsidian is one because I thought I had a demon. So I used obsidian.
I was going to ask you.
Right? Yeah.
And if you're okay, I'd love you to talk about it, about the demon.
Oh, okay.
Are you comfortable?
Sure.
Are you okay talking about the demon?
Well, okay, yeah. So it's still the jury's out if it was a demon or if it was sleep paralysis. But it was scary. So
Who knows?
No one knows. So what I did was, again, I'm a spiritual girl who also is like a firm believer in like the sciences, right? So like I got all the crystals, I got all my obsidian and put that everywhere, and I saged out my room. But then they also were like, oh, this could be sleep paralysis. So then I also was getting, and I'm like, I believe in like Western medicine. I'm like, I was getting acupuncture, like just like totally not,
Okay.
but that's what I got for like if it was sleep paralysis to help me with the sleep paralysis. But it was really scary. It happened like 4 or 5 times. I would like wake up and I would like feel like I couldn't move, and there was like a dark force on top of me. Like whatever it was not there to help you. It was there to harm you. And it happened a lot to the point where I was like a little afraid to go to sleep for a while. I was like, I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep. But it hasn't happened since I got the black obsidian and did all the acupuncture in my ears. Ear acupuncture.
Auricular acupuncture.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Auricular?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Everyone should go get acupuncture. It's friggin' amazing. I love it.
So you were able to, in one way, shape, or form, through a combination of Western medicine as well as relying on these crystals,
Yeah.
it's no longer happening.
No. And it only happened for a couple weeks. And then one night
Weird.
someone also told me to sleep with my window a crack open. And this was like in February in Philadelphia, so it's not warm. But they say like sometimes like dark spirits get like stuck in the area. So do all of that, leave your window a crack open, and then it goes out. And it really, I mean, it did, or the sleep paralysis stopped. Like either way, I prefer it to be
Either
sleep
way, it's a win.
paralysis.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it wasn't
That's
like
crazy.
paranormal activity, right? I wasn't like, things weren't like flying through my room, or thank goodness. But like, it was just weird.
I mean, even just to be to the point where it made you concerned about going to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
I did not like to go to
That's
sleep. And I was
significant.
afraid. I was like, oh, I don't want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So, Shaina, let me ask you this. For someone listening who might say, you know, I'm intrigued by this crystal thing. Maybe they have no background. They've never done it before. How would you even get involved? Where do you get your first crystal? I assume Amazon would be a weird place. Is that like, where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend Amazon because you don't know. I mean, again, we're talking energy here, so you don't know who's been touching the crystals.
The
doing
energy
things
of
to the
Jeff
crystals,
Bezos.
right? Yeah. But yeah, really. Or like the poor Amazon workers, like that are just busting their butts, you know? So I would recommend going to a like local shop. And if you can find a local shop that's run by a person of color or like someone in the native community or something, like you could really shop from like the people that have used this stuff for centuries, especially like native community, then I would definitely recommend going there. And then just either talking to the shop people because they can make amazing recommendations, or what I like to do is go in and just like, I let the crystals tell me what I need. I go in and I'm like, what crystal is going to come to me? And like there. But I mean, a good place to start would be like a nice like rose quartz or like clear quartz. Those are pretty basic. A nice like amethyst. Like amethyst is good for like clearing the home. Rose quartz, your heart. Clear quartz amplifies anything you're doing. Those are good places to start.
So I go into one of these shops. I say I want a rose quartz. Let's just say. I assume there's a bunch. How do I determine which? Because I assume you're not supposed to touch them, right?
Oh, well, at that point, whoever's buying the crystal knows that they're going to go home and cleanse their crystals in some way, shape, or form.
I see. Okay, so is it like Harry Potter, where it's sort of, they sort of choose you, right? You're a Slytherin.
Yeah.
Like does the crystal kind of like that? Like this is the one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually tell you something. I've never bought a crystal. People buy them for me. They literally all have chosen me. Oh, I did buy my obsidian. I lied. I bought the obsidian because I needed it.
But all the other crystals have been a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Listen, you don't have to tell me specifics, but did anyone give you a crystal and you were like, "This is giving me bad vibes. I'm getting rid of it."
No, I don't think so. But I would, if it did give me bad vibes, I would get rid of it. I would.
You mentioned cleansing earlier.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Well, so I guess it kind of just depends on like who you are. Like my mom my mom's big into crystals too. My mom gets me a lot of crystals because she loves it and loves that I love it. But my mom cleanses hers in water. Like she'll wash her crystals in salt water. But my mom's a Cancer. She's a water sign. She also has a water moon. So her planet of emotions is in water. So, but for me, I don't really identify with water like that. Like, that's not my vibe. I more so identify with either fire or air. Those are like the signs that I have like a real pull to. So I always charge my crystals in full moons. So I always make sure I have them on the windowsills for a full moon, except I did just we just had a full moon in Cancer and I missed it because I just moved into my place. I'm still a mess. I still haven't even got my crystals out yet. They're still like all in a little bag together. So that's probably why I missed it. But or I'll also
do they get recharged? They
get
get recharged through different mechanisms. It sounds like could be the moon, could be the sun,
could
be water.
Yeah. I kind of think about the elements like earth, wind, fire. Yeah.
Great band.
And then whatever. Yeah, I know, right? And then whatever kind of just like feels right to you. Like if you have a lot of earth in your chart, you'll probably want to like cleanse your crystals in some local dirt, you know, and like put them in there and let them sit in the dirt to like cleanse. But charging is different than cleansing. Did I say charging earlier? I do charge my crystals in the moon, but I also will cleanse them in the moon. Cleansing them is if like somebody came in and like, not you, Alex, for the record, I would never think that you were putting bad vibes in my stuff. And I'm a little bit more chill about crystals than other people, but like if somebody came in and like touched on my crystals and like I felt like they didn't have good intentions as a friend or whatever they were doing, right? I was like, I don't feel like they have good intentions. Then I would most definitely be cleansing the fuck out of them and then like resetting them with like nice vibes, like good, whatever it could be. Like sometimes I'll even like put my goals in them. Like I'll be like, I want to make more money this year. Like I'm going to ask for a raise, like, you know, like whatever. And there's sometimes just like a visual representation of my goals. Like and this is going to sound crazy, but I put a quartz, a citrine, and a rose quartz over my checkbook, literally just because I was like, let me try this out. Boop, boop, boop. I did that. And then literally in 2020 or 2021, whatever last year was, I got a raise at the beginning of the year and a raise mid-year. Just for shits and giggles.
That's awesome.
Don't fight it.
Yeah.
Don't fight it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
the crystals.
Yeah, I mean, if
That's
it was
amazing.
the crystals, great. If it wasn't the crystals, hey, still great. And if it's like that, if I just put my crystal on my checkbook and then I keep getting more money, all right. I'm not mad.
Got the money hack.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe. Or I'm just a lunatic, but
know.
whatever, I'll take it.
Shayna,
It works. It pays.
this has been absolutely fascinating. I have one last question before we go.
Oh, good. I have one less answer.
Do you like, so you just moved to a new apartment, right?
Oh,
I
house.
assume,
Whole house.
okay, you're in a new house.
Yeah.
So
please.
your bedroom, the windows are shaping different, you know, maybe you were facing south, now you're facing east. Like, do you incorporate that into like the location of your bed and the way you sleep? And like, do you think about all that?
No, I mean, I'm no, like kind of sort of getting towards like feng shui.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just because I don't have the working knowledge for it, but I do truly believe that energy needs to flow. And I think if like I walked in, I wouldn't want to walk it. Like my cousin and I were talking about this for like an hour about where I'm going to put my bed, because I didn't want to like walk in and have it be like bed, boom, because I feel like the energy doesn't like move and breathe, right? So I did kind of think about it from that way, but I really don't have any type of like operational knowledge of feng shui to even like, but energy, I believe energy moves, and like, and I also kind of believe that too from like a cleanliness perspective, like clean your corners. Like if you have stagnant corners, you have stagnant things in your life. Dust that shit.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ron, any final thoughts or questions?
No, I think actually that last question actually kind of answered it for me, because what I was thinking about a little bit was when I was in Singapore, a big thing there is there's a lot of geomancers. And similarly to like you said with the corporate astrologers, they'll actually kind of weigh in and be like, no, bad place to put your office, good place to put your office, or here's the things you need to do to take care of that energy. And one of my favorite stories, I think this is true, was actually around Singapore was supposedly on a ley line that would have seen a tremendous amount of earthquakes. And basically the head geomancer in Singapore, and I apologize if I'm butchering the story, basically said to the leaders of Singapore, you need to put this 8-sided object, I forget what it's called, like a bagua symbol, and they put it on the money. And that has possibly protected Singapore from getting one of those major earthquakes.
Wow. I believe it.
That's incredible.
So
there are a lot.
Well,
that's something I want to learn more about, because there's also like even something as simple as like putting oranges like in your house. Like citrus is like prosperity. So if you have like some citrus in your kitchen or so, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to even speak about it, but there's a lot of that. So that might be the next time I'm on here, you'll hear me talking about this.
I love it.
Awesome.
We're gonna have to bring you back on at some point in the future, because you can tell us all about the future of all, what you've been doing since then and how it has impacted your life. So,
and Ben Franklin's relationship with your bond.
We need a response on that.
I know we're like coming up on time, but we did not get into America's Pluto return. Pluto is going back to its place of the birthplace of America, and it's big changes. Like, I'm not going to say it, but I think our economy is going to crumble.
Wait, whoa. So we were going to wrap up the show, but you give me that kind of precursor. We got to talk. Wait, so Pluto, I want to make sure, back in college or whenever, high school, they reverted it to a planetoid. It's still a planetoid, right?
Well, I consider it a planet because from an astrology standpoint, it does really pack a punch. Like, Pluto's an important generational planet. I think it is actually technically a planetoid. But so Pluto's going back to its placement of where it was in February for when during like the American Revolution. So I think we are going to see another people's revolution. Like, I think that, and it might not happen like in February. Pluto's super slow. So like Pluto's going to be in the same place for like a bajillion years. Not a bajillion years, but like Saturn's in this place for like 30 years. So probably like 60 years it's going to be in the same place.
And so it's going back to where it was in 1776?
Yes.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and Pluto's like unexpected changes. Pluto's like restructuring of thoughts, restructuring of like burn it down to build it back up is kind of like the Pluto vibe.
So that's a little scary.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be good. I
just lived through 2020 and 2021. But now you're dumping.
I don't think it's going to be
us?
scary for if you're like not in the 1%. Like, I think the 1% should be afraid. But I think kind of think like when we were having our revolution, who else was having a revolution?
The French.
France. Yeah.
French.
Do you hear the people sing? Why does everything go back to Les Mis?
Back to Les Mis.
That's us.
Love it.
I want to be that cute little boy, like one who sings his cute little song. That's what I want to be. And he dies.
All right. Well.
Anyway, leave you there. Bring me back in 2024.
I was going to say, this is a real cliffhanger. 4. This is a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Hopefully, well, I guess if things is the moral of the story, if something bad happens, it's in the long term positive. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I don't think anything bad is going to happen. I don't think anything bad is going to happen. I think we're going to see structural changes. Like, I think it might be bad for like our government, but I don't think like for us it will be bad.
All right, you heard it. You heard it there. Everyone invest in crypto and precious metals.
Bam. Crystals too.
And crystals.
And crystals. Yeah, buy as many crystals as you can.
Yeah. Just make sure they're ethically sourced. Ethically sourced crystals.
There you go.
There you go. Shaina, this has been a real pleasure. I think I speak for Ron and I. We both have learned a lot about the world of astrology, spiritual crystals, and Benjamin Franklin.
And Benjamin Franklin. They kind of all go together, right?
Totally.
Well, this is great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. And with that, that's the episode. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh my gosh. My favorite podcast. Thank you.